Hey there, and welcome to the DFS Build NBA Edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, getting ready to go over the main slate at DraftKings, which is a staggering 10 games. Certainly not the slate to play really heavily. I will personally be taking it easy because 10 games it's a big one. We do have a lot of studs here too, so there's just a lot of ways to go around. Plus, a lot of news is going to pop, so it's going to be chaotic. I would definitely recommend taking it easy or heading over to the night slate tonight. 5-game night slate, not something we usually see, so I would definitely consider taking advantage of that, maybe kind of splitting it up a little bit in that regard. That said, there's money to be made, and the goal is to help you get some of it. If this video does help you in any way, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and come join our free Discord where you can talk shop, and people in there are very engaging, very helpful, and we'll all try to help each other get a big win tonight. Also, if you'd like core plays, you can head over to our Patreon and check out our packages for that. All right, let's get to it. Position by position we go. We're going to try to get to it pretty quickly because a lot can change between now and lock, and I don't want to go over too many of the plays, ad nauseum here, and then the guys end up getting ruled out. Up top, Luka with no LeBron is amazing. He's been absolutely on fire. The last time he was out there, 64 fantasy points. Game before that, 71. So we can hope for a good 70 burger here. No, for sure against the Spurs. Don't have a problem with that. Best point guard projection by far, and his ownership is not that crazy because you got Cade at 9.8, soaking up a ton of ownership right now. So if you want to go get Luka, I don't mind at all. And the big reason is 10 games is just super, super tough to you can get a really good scoring lineup and still barely cash or not even cash. I remember a few slates ago, I had 368 and didn't cash. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. 400 plus fantasy points is probably what you're going to need to get a takedown. And you're just going to need a really good lineup even to cash. So something like Luka and Jokic, pairing those guys and then just hitting all the right values tonight might be what you need to do. That said, you could save about 2,000 here and go get Cade and potentially match Luka for way less. So I don't mind Cade. The only issue is eating a 35% owned guy on a 10-game slate feels like the wrong thing to do. So right now, I think I'd rather go spend on somebody in that same price range, go up and get Luka, or maybe just save cash coming down here. Devin Booker against the Raptors. I guess he's okay at 9.2K with no Bradley Beal. Not in super excited to play him. I think at that point I would just go $600 more and get Cade. But Devin Booker is not going to be owned, and Bradley Beal might not be in this one. I'm just going to check that as we're going. Boy, 10 games got to really rifle through all the different options here. Beal is officially questionable. He did not return to action in Sunday's game, so I would put him closer to doubtful. Steph Curry's always in play at 9.1 in a better than expected matchup with Denver. Obviously, if Curry versus Jokic, that narrative, you want to do it. The projection is good, not very owned, but he is actually questionable to play. If he's in, he's fine at 9.1. But if he's out, you can look at all the Warriors getting a significant bump. I don't really know what to do with Austin Reeves here at 8.9K. The price is getting a little bit high, but there's no denying he has been a monster since LeBron went down. 40-plus fantasy points in each of his last 4 games, plus that crazy 76-point outing against Denver. Don't expect that with Luka here. So I think at 8.9K, he's a little bit too expensive for me, especially when you have Devin and Curry with a slightly better projection, also not very owned, and in equally advantageous spots. I think if Luka was out, Reeves would look really good at 8.9K. But as long as Luka's there, I think that is a little bit too expensive for me. Halliburton at 8.6 with no Siakam. He is interesting. I think he's the first one here that really stands out after Cade and Luka, just because he's a little bit too cheap for what he can do. And also he's going to get more usage with no Siakam. 66 fantasy points in his last game. And he's really just been turning it on as of late. He's a couple clunkers there, no doubt about it. But we know what he can do. He does have a ceiling, and he's a little bit too cheap, even though the road date with Minnesota isn't super exciting. One guy that I actually like quite a bit is Tyler Hero. We know he has a high usage rate. Let me actually sort this. Tyler Hero right here, 8.3K. Prices come way down. Floor game against Memphis last game for sure, but otherwise he's been pretty good lately. I don't have a problem with him. We know he's going to get the ball a lot, and 8.3K is just too cheap. So nice, interesting battle with the Knicks. They do have a low implied total, so I'm not super excited about that, but I do think a high usage player like here at 8.3 is going to go overlooked for sure and is a little bit interesting. I think Simons is okay. I don't really want to do the Quentin Grimes dance at 8.1K. The second we actually trust Quentin Grimes, Nick Nurse is going to play in like 12 minutes. So I think he's in play because everybody else for Philly is out right now. Let me actually check who's in. A lot of guys are out. Maxi's out. PG-13's out. Oubre's out. Yabu, I think, is doubtful. If this will load. Well, it's not loading right now, but he might not play. Adam Bana is out. Lonnie Walker's out. Andre Drummond. So they just have a shortage of bodies here. So Quentin Grimes is in play at 8.1K, just not a priority spend for me. I'd rather pivot to Hero if Quentin Grimes is actually going to garner ownership. I just would rather go after somebody with less volatility attached to them for sure. So all these other guys, nobody's really sending out. Scotty Barnes and the Raptors, just you can't really feel good about their minutes at 8.5K for a guy who's maxing at like 27 minutes. I can't do that. We start entering value territory with Jordan Poole at 7K. Forever a GPP play. Said that last time. He scored well, but he only had 31 fantasy points against the Nuggets. They've kind of kept his minutes in check, so not a big fan of that. I think I'd rather go get Stephon Castle. No De'Aaron Fox, so 6.6K. He looks really good in terms of usage and ceiling. Has definitely had a couple floor games recently, but otherwise he's been cooking. So I don't mind him at all. Trey Jones, 5.9K. Still no Giddey. Let me just double check the Bulls here. Giddey is doubtful. So yeah, Giddey's not going to play. We have no Lonzo Ball, and I would assume that remains out. So all the same guys we've been playing at guard for the Bulls continue to look great. And obviously they are in a smash spot against the Jazz. That is a very stackable game. That game has a 232 total and only a 6-point spread in Utah. Trey Jones starts the bidding there at 5.9. I like him. Good projection. He is going to be owned, but the price has not come up enough to get me to get off of him. Jalen Green is a solid turning play here if the Sixers can keep it close, 7.6K with no Amen. Price is ticking up a little bit, and that game does have blowout risk, 15-point spread, but I think Jalen Green is a good tourney play. Thing that I'll say here with that in mind is, like, on 10-game slate, you do not have to work really hard to get different. Just maybe don't play the chalkiest guys out there, and then you'll be fine. Because honestly, there's going to be so many different good ways to go. Speaking of which, Jared Butler does still look good at 6K. Given all the injuries to Philly, I'd rather just save 2,000 and play him over Quentin Grimes tonight. It just provided all those, all the extra bodies that are usually there are not there, and Butler is still starting. Not a priority for me here. I think at FanDuel, 5.2K Butler is a little bit more of a priority for sure. Isaiah Collier, 6.1K against the Bulls. I think he's okay, assuming some other guys for Utah end up missing. Right now, Keontae George is questionable, I believe. He did not play yesterday. Jordan Clarkson's questionable. So if one or two of those guys are out, Collier would look pretty good at that price in that matchup. The best value of the slate right now at point guard is going to be Scottie Pippen Jr. or Luke Kennard. They are about the same price, 4.7, 4.5K. Last time out, Kennard was okay. Pippen was awesome. So you just never know which one's actually going to hit. I think you can play them together, but typically I lean towards who starts, and I really just want to play one of them, and hopefully I get it right. So I believe Pippen's questionable, so want to keep an eye on that. If Pippen is questionable, then that makes it easy for us, and we just play Kennard. Or if Pippen ends up being out, and if Pippen's in, I would just lean towards whoever starts. Miles McBride continues to get monster minutes with no Brunson. Prices come up a little bit. Miami's not a great matchup, but 5.5K for all the minutes he can handle if the game stays close. I continue to like him at that price. I think that's not a bad pivot away from Trey Jones. So definitely have interest there. Russell Westbrook's prices come up. I think Aaron Gordon is going to be back for this game. Let's see. Questionable. I guess if Aaron Gordon is still out, you can entertain it, Russ, but the price is climbing a bit, so I don't know if I really want to do that. DiVincenzo at 5.6. I think he's still in play. Conley should play after sitting out yesterday. Probably going to push him back to the bench. If it does, I don't think he's a priority by any means, but I think he's still viable. You can do the dance with the Raptors guys. Jamal Shead, 4.8K. The day we played him, he got 12 minutes. So the next two games, 26 and 25. So Toronto cannot make up their minds as far as what they want to do. It's really just going to depend on who is there for the Raptors. Right now, there is no Brandon Ingram still, possibly no Emmanuel Quickly or RJ Barrett. So, and no Grady Dick. Jacoby Walter might be out again. So if they are really shorthanded again, I think we can look at Shed and like AJ Lawson. I just don't feel like you have to do that. on a slate this size. And right now, the Grizzlies' value is probably taking center stage. Over to shooting guard we go. Kobe White looks awesome at 7.8K. Currently a core play for me against the Jazz. Just monster usage. Just think of him as basically Josh Giddey right now. He is running the show. Him and Trey Jones are setting up the offense, and they're taking over as scorers. So against Utah, there's no reason not to like White here. He should be way more expensive. I like him quite a bit. And even on a 10-game slate, that is one play at that price I do not mind playing into ownership. Devin Booker is a pivot in terms of projection, but just you have to pay 1.4K more to get him. The next guy I would look at is Desmond Bane, because no Ja Morant. So Desmond Bane against the Kings, they are not good at defending the perimeter, and he just can take over anyways. He was getting it done when JJJ was out and Ja was in, and now we have JJJ in and Ja is out. So I think Bane looks like a good play. 9K is a little bit expensive, but I still think he is someone you want in your player pool for sure. Unowned Anthony Edwards, always interesting. A pivot off of Bane for sure. Don't mind that. Same with Austin Reeves. Like, these guys are all kind of the same guy for DFS purposes right now. They all have really nice usage rates. You know, Bane without Ja, Reeves without Bron, Edwards just in general. So I think if I had to lean one, I would lean Bane, just because I think he has a massive ceiling without Ja there. But you can certainly pick your poison, and you don't have to play any of them because the slate is so huge. Already mentioned Hero. Levine's a bit priced out for me, even though the matchup with Memphis is pretty advantageous at this point. If I like these guys up here: Kobe, Bane, Ant, Austin. Those guys are all solid spends, but you definitely can come down here and save a little bit with Castle. Trey Murphy is going to be interesting if Zion is out. He's questionable for personal reasons. So 7.4K Trey would be a little bit too cheap to completely overlook here, but I would imagine if Zion's out, he'd gain a lot of steam. Shadon Sharp is something to monitor. The Blazers did play last night, so Jeremy Grant and or Simons could end up sitting. They were both questionable going into the slate yesterday, and Jeremy ended up missing. So if Jeremy's out again, you can certainly look to Sharp. If Simons takes a breather here, then Sharp would look a lot better at 6.7K. Devin Vassell continues to get that usage with Castle, so he looks good at 6.9. Already mentioned Butler. Kevin Huerter pops up at 5.2K against the Jazz. I like him quite a bit. He did not get it done the other day with only 17 fantasy points, but other than that, he's been pretty reliable. So if he can heat up and hit his outside shots, he is going to look pretty good at that price. And yeah, I already mentioned Miles McBride. I believe Halliburton's actually questionable. So if Halliburton does miss, you could look at Andrew Nembhard at 5.6. With no Siakam, a little bit more usage is going to float his way anyway, so I think he's in play. Luke Kennard also shooting guard eligible over here. And like I mentioned before, you can do the Raptors dance. AJ Lawson at 4.9. Not the worst thing in the world. All right, let's kick it over to small forward. And forgive me if I'm missing anybody as we go. Like I said, a lot of games, a lot of injury news is going to drop. So this, hopefully this is more of a refresher going into the slate as to who currently stands out and how you might want to, map things out a little bit. Kobe White is also small forward eligible, which is really nice for lineup building purposes. Zion is forever a GPP play against the Pistons if he's in. Not super into him because Detroit is not like that friendly of a matchup in general. He is 9.4K, and he still is capped as far as minutes go. So on a 10-game slate, do you really have to do Zion? I don't think so. I think he's more of like a 5 to 8-game slate GPP play. I'm never going to tell you can't play him. I just don't think he is necessary. Jimmy at 7.7 is totally fine as is. If Curry misses, Jimmy would be pretty close to a priority. He's looking pretty good right now already. As it stands, though, Denny Avdia is the better value. 7.1. His price has not budged that much. Gets a revenge game against the Wizards, and he projects just as well as Jimmy, but he's way cheaper. Love Denny today. He feels like a core play. As much as somebody can be a core play on a 10-game slate, Denny does look really good. Josh Hart is always a good GPP play. Still no Brunson. His price keeps coming down. I do not mind him at 8K, but again, the matchup with the Heat is not ideal, and it's not really the best DFS environment on the slate. Not going to pay a premium for DeMar or Levine with Sabonis back. Just going to double check that Sabonis is indeed there. Yeah, they have everybody back now, so not really psyched about Kings guys. Then you can come down and look at Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. Not OG. His price has come up a little bit too much for me. Mikal at 6.5K, though, again, not the best DFS spot, but these guys get massive minutes, so I don't mind that. I think I would prefer to go $400 up to Vassell or go play Sharp if the injury situation benefits them. Champagny for the Wizards. Decent matchup with the Blazers. Getting big minutes now, 30-plus minutes in 3 straight games. Smashed the last 2 games. could be a little bit trappy here. Like if everybody's going to play Champagne, there's going to be like 20 to 30% owned. Not the worst guy to get away from. Like you don't need to eat all the good chalk on a 10-game slate. That is for sure. I do think he's a good play at 5.4K based on the minutes of the matchup, but that might be a guy that I actually look to go a little bit underweight on. I think Herder at less ownership is a little bit more interesting, but Champagne being power forward eligible is definitely something that could be beneficial. Ricky Council, he is another Sixer that's going to stand out here with them short on bodies. I think he's a little bit more interesting than Jared Butler right now because he's $800 cheaper, and you can also use him at small forward and power forward. Mathurin is an interesting value at 4.4 if Siakam is out. So just honestly, keep an eye on the Pacers situation. Or Siakam is out. I'm thinking if Halpern's also out, Mathurin would look really good. And right now he looks pretty good already with Siakam not going to play. Aaron Nesmith also questionable, so that could give him another boost. Nobody else really popping. I'd monitor the Utah situation because they could end up sitting guys like they are one to do. So 4.5K Bryce Sensabaugh would be interesting in that case. All right, over to power forward we go. A lot of the same guys are going to trickle over here to power forward. One that we did not touch on yet is Kevin Durant, 9.7K with no Bradley Beal against the Raptors. That sounds pretty good to me. He has not been good, not displaying a really high ceiling lately, but we know a couple things. We know he does have a good usage rate. We know he projects really well. And we know that Beal is out, so he's going to be even more involved than he normally is. So love the projection. Not a big fan of the price, but on the 10-game slate, I got to think he is not going to be owned. Somebody that will be owned probably is going to be JJJ. At 1.3K cheaper, he just is the better play over KD right now. No Ja, so just naturally he's going to be interesting. I am a little bit concerned that he could get into foul trouble against Sabonis. That's definitely a possibility. And at 8.4, that's not what you want happening for a guy you pay a ton of money for. So right now, based off of salary, I do prefer him over Bane, especially since Bane is only shooting guard eligible. But there's a little bit of risk baked in there for sure. Bam is okay at 8.8, but I don't think I want to pay that. Denny is the play here. If you're not going to use him at small forward, I think Denny looks awesome here at power forward. Draymond Green though, 5.9K with Curry questionable, Podziemski out, and Quentin Post also questionable. That is going to open things up for him quite a bit. Draymond's looking like a really good value here, and the fact that you can also use him at center is always really nice. The Nuggets interior-wise defensively have been horrendous. So Draymond projects well. He's a little bit too cheap. I think he looks really, really good here. Only issue is he's pulling major ownership. So if everybody is going to be on Draymond Green, you certainly can get away with going away from him. Some of the same guys apply here. Champagne, Josh Hart, those guys are all totally fine. Just want to monitor ownership and make those calls. Tari Eason looks good. Once again, 6.2K. I think that price is just fine. Decent roll against Philly here. I would keep an eye on Kyle Filipowski. If Walker Kessler is randomly rested and all these other guys for Utah end up missing, he would look really, really good at 6.3. And he's not only center eligible, he is also viable at power forward now, which is really, really nice. Naz Reid's price has finally come down too, so want to mention him at 6.1K against the Pacers. Really good spot inside, and he'll get usage off the bench, so I do not mind him at that price. All right, at center to wrap it up. Jokic up top, 64 fantasy points. I think he's questionable. I mean, he's been questionable like every day for like 2 weeks though. So my guess is he plays and he's totally fine. And he just plays 38 to 40 minutes like he keeps doing. Couple issues here are that he is 13K and it's a 10-game slate. So I don't know if you absolutely have to go out of your way to pay for any single one player. But like I said, on a 10-game slate, you need just all the points you can get. So getting those raw points with guys like Jokic and Luka is something we want to consider doing because then you just know you're probably getting 60 to 70 fantasy points, and then you can go map out the rest of your lineup after that. Very expensive, but I like him obviously against the Warriors. They have nobody that can stop him inside. Cat is in play at 10K. Don't really love playing centers against Bam, but I mean he flashed his ceiling again last time with 52 fantasy points. He's been bad lately, but in theory with no Brunson, he should have monster usage. And by the way, he did that in 29 minutes. That's maybe we have Cat back. If you believe that, 10K for Cat sounds pretty good. Şengün has been cooking. He had 56 fantasy points last game, 43 3/4 the game before. So he is definitely crushing with Ahmed Thompson out. He looks really good at 9.6K, and nobody on Philly is going to stop him. Sabonis, I feel like, is still limited a little bit. Yeah, 30 minutes of his first game back, crushed in 30 minutes, so 55 fantasy points. So against Memphis in a really good DFS spot with his minutes ticking up, I think he is a little bit interesting, especially if ownership does go to like Cat and Şengün. Duran's always in play when he's under 7K. The Pelicans are a really good spot for him. 6.8K, nice projection. Don't mind that at all. Again, Draymond here. You'll look at Walker Kessler, questionable, of course. So if Walker is going to miss, Kyle Filipowski, like I said, looks really good. Really like Alexander Sarr the other day against the Nuggets as a sneaky play, and he went off. 54 fantasy points. He's been rock solid like every game basically anyways. 6.5K is getting a little bit steep, but I think he's still in play. Donovan Klingon on the other side is much more appealing, getting 30-plus minutes in 3 straight games. He's been getting it done, and the Wizards are just a beautiful spot for center, so I really like Donovan Klingon on this slate. Rudy Gobert continues to be a solid value at 6.2. He did not get their last game, but that game did blow out. So if you think the Pacers game could stay close, I think he's okay. I think I just prefer Klingon there for sure. Monitor the status of Miles Turner. One guy that I kind of blipped over because I didn't see him while I was looking here is going to be, here we go. Obi Toppin. Nice that he's center eligible as well. He's already a really good value with Siakam out. If Miles Turner also misses, then we're going to be looking at Obi Toppin and all the other Pacers guys like Thomas Bryant. Let me just double check who's actually in there for Indiana at center. Yeah, it'd be Thomas Bryant and then Obi Toppin. They both look really, really good, and they're both really cheap. All right, that's going to do it for position by position breakdown, just because there's so much to go over and so much can change the second I publish this video. Be sure to join our free Discord to talk shop and get access to our picks in Patreon if you want a little bit extra help going into lock. Thanks for watching and good luck.